Yeah, it was nice. It was good crack. Session on Friday wasn't necessarily good crack, but we got a lot of work done. A huge amount of meters covered in that session. The 20s were very good. They carved us open a few times, but it was a good to get back together and after a game at a weekend where you're not entirely happy of what you've achieved, you just want to get back out on the pitch as soon as possible and try and work on those things again.
Can you describe the mindset of the group coming into this week? Obviously, there's a lot of pushing teeth on the outside and worry about where Ireland are in the World Cup year. What's it like?
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement. There's a little bit of nerves. There's a bit of frustration. But there's a huge amount of confidence as well in our ability and the type of game that we know that we're pretty close to producing. So we're going to be filled with a huge amount of different emotions throughout the week. But I think the important thing for us is when the weekend does come that there's a huge amount of excitement to go and play rugby, and we're at home in front of our home fans in the Aviva in a Six Nations game playing for your country. And that needs to be the overriding feeling for us at the weekend.
Reviewing a surprising number of hand errors for Ireland. Really close. What did you put that down?
I think probably towards the back end of the game there was a little bit of nerves. People just started to go into their shells a little bit, and a lot of us, myself included, made mistakes during the game that were probably uncharacteristic and unforced. Excuse me, and it just started to put us under pressure, put the team under pressure, and then it sort of just snowballed a little bit from there.
So what do you do, Rob, to try and combat that to make sure it doesn't happen this weekend?
Yeah, it's again you come back to the drawing board. You've a chat with yourself about having confidence in your own ability. You don't become a bad side overnight. You don't become a poor player overnight that makes unforced errors. You get back in the field, you work hard, you train hard, you try and get those combinations together. Some of the basic skills that perhaps let us down in the Italian game, you do extras at the end of training. Just little things to get your confidence back up and going again.
So is it as much psychological than it is physical?
Yeah, of course. Sport is very, very psychological. And sometimes in those games, and probably particularly the Italian game, a lot of the mistakes and the fact that we might have went into our shell a little bit and showed a little bit of anxiety, it's all psychological.
France has been a bit Jekyll and Hyde this tournament as well, Rob. What do you think you're going to get from them this weekend?
I think we're probably going to get the best French performance we've seen in the championship so far. It's unusual for them to pick the same side 2 weeks on the bounce. So it's obviously a huge sign of confidence from the coach and that group. They played some really good rugby against Scotland, 2 tries disallowed, scored 4. So we're expecting a pretty good French side to come to Dublin.
I think there's a chance that they could be looking at this Irish team and saying there are vulnerabilities, just based on what you've said yourself about this team.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. They'll probably maybe sniff a little bit of blood. And that's sport, isn't it? I think when you look at a team that, if you're analysing an opposition team that aren't fully firing at their very best, that's what happens. And that's just the nature of sport, I think.
Rob, what did you make of Thomas Ramsey's performance last round out against Scotland?
Yeah, he's been pretty good, hasn't he? He's very dangerous. I think that they learnt a few lessons from that English game in terms of their backfield. They're trying to leave him a little bit deeper and not close up as early and as high. So he's not played a huge amount there at test level, so still, trying to get a little bit of a feel of what type of player he is.
Yeah, and is it a case of him being one to watch, or do you just concentrate on your own performances during the week?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Like we'll do our player profiles this evening. We'll do them again at the end of the week. Try and know them inside out. So while you're always concerned and your top priority is yourself, you need to be very mindful of the opposition and the type of opponents that you're coming up against.
Well, why do you want to finish this championship on a high? Do you hold any private concerns of how this could impact your confidence into the World Cup?
No, I don't think so. Listen, ideally we'd finish the competition on 2 wins, wouldn't it? And then you go into the World Cup, in a much better place. But one of the big mantras of this team is just looking at what's right next in front of you, and one game at a time. And I think that genuinely is the truth. And it's, there's nobody in that group down there that are looking too far ahead. We can turn this whole tournament around very, very quickly with 80 minutes of the weekend, and all of a sudden we're back, top of the world again. We're just very mindful about, this one game coming up this weekend.
Tony Ward wrote a piece in the Irish Independent this morning just talking about Johnny Sexton, saying that about his form, I think it influences or affects the team. He said that it cannot possibly benefit team morale. Is it affecting team morale?
No, I don't think so. That's Johnny, isn't it? We're a little bit used to it. We all get very frustrated, and we all show our frustration in different ways. So I've played with Johnny for 15 odd years now, so maybe I'm not the one to ask. But certainly I don't think it's having much of an effect on us.
Have you ever been on the end of it before?
Pardon me?
Have you ever been on the end of it?
Weekly. I think we all have. But again, that's, it's good. It drives standards amongst us. Johnny understands the game very well, and he's very clear in terms of how he wants to play it. And that's his way of communicating it.
Rob, Joe seemed to kind of indicate that it was the evening performance that kind of rattled the team, that maybe kind of had a big impact, I suppose, on your confidence and mentality. Would that be the case, do you think?
Yeah, there's probably an element of that. But again, it's an opportunity to learn too, You go to a World Cup, you could potentially lose your first game and still be with a chance of winning it, so obviously you don't want it to have to go to that, but we need to get better as a team from having a bad week, having a loss, and getting straight back in the horse next week and producing big performances and performances we're capable of, as opposed to maybe going into our shell a little bit.
Do you think teams now, opposition teams, because you play a certain way, are able to read what you do better during games, and maybe it's a case where you need to then, I suppose, adapt to how they come at you then?
Yeah, I think there's always an element of being adaptable in games. What you scout during the week, very often is different to what you get presented with at the weekend. So us trying to play different and being adaptable to what we're seeing in front of us is certainly how we want to play the game. We might not have showcased that as best as we can over the last few weeks, but that is certainly how we want to try and play it.